Hey guys, it's Lumen, and today I will be presenting my fairy title challenge run with, commentary, right? It's like how I thought about it, how I built the team, what went wrong, and how it all came together. So as you can see, I am using the very new top rated cards from JJK collab or Jujutsu Kaisen collab. We have Mahito x Yuji, right? The reason why I use this pair was simply because it's very strong, right? It synergizes extremely well. Survivability and the damage are also pretty strong, and overall it's just a very synergistic pair that really put dark attribute back on the map again. Really, I decided to use it for my title challenge run since I felt like it. Now of course I'm sure you have seen other videos such as, I don't know, Nautilus or Rosalind. Those teams definitely can clear. They're very, very strong, and they're designed to destroy the end game. But unfortunately, or fortunately, unfortunately, who knows? It depends what you like or don't like, but I just didn't use them. I used Mahito and Yuji Itadori instead. So, how the team works, right? So, as you can see, I have two Mahito on the team for damage. And so what they do is they loop, much like Nautilus works, or Royal Oak works, or even Rosalind. I have two of them for consistent orb generation and for damage. I do want to mention though, it's a little weird, but basically if you compare him to the submarines, Mahito actually doesn't generate any heal orbs. He simply converts two attributes to dark, right? Now this has a couple benefits and a couple downsides, right? The most obvious benefit is probably the orb generation. Like, the amount of orbs you can generate every single turn is simply ridiculous. Like, you can very, very consistently generate 9 orbs a turn, able to VDP every turn. Like, on average, a board is 6 attributes, right? So fire, water, wood, dark, light, heal, right? Half of them, right, would be 3, right? In this case, we're gonna pick out water, wood, and dark, right? Mahito converts all of them to dark. So you're converting literally half the board to dark orbs, which means on average, you should have 15 dark orbs on the board, which means that you can effectively match a VDP and a row every single turn. And if you know anything about damage calculation, a VDP plus a row every turn is actually a ridiculous amount of damage output. There you have a lot of orb generation. The downside, of course, is your lack of sustainability, right? Nautilus is extremely strong because not only does he output ridiculous damage, he can't die because he has heal orbs on demand every single turn. Unfortunately for Mahito, not only does he have 0 heal orb generation, he also doesn't have any recovery multiplier. So his sustainability is actual trash. So if you take damage, it's very unlikely you'll get it back, right? Of course, we're used to this with leads such as, again, Nautilus, right? With lots of HP, lots of shield, no recovery, right? But then you also have leads in the past like Dark Metatron or New Year Reach, right? I'm just naming random ones off the top of my head. But those leads also did not have any recovery. And so how did we deal with them? We either paired them with a different lead, right, that had recovery, or you subbed in heal OE sub, right? Something that has lots of those awakenings so that you can heal off the sub instead of the lead multipliers, right? It was a good way to augment. So that's why cards like Mel, Ear, right? Those cards were incredibly popular back in the day because of their recovery utility, right? It's just OP, right? In this case, we decided to pair Mahito with Yuji. Yuji is one of the first transform leads to have a condition attached to his transformation, right? I think he is the first. The conditional part is not, but he's definitely the first to incorporate his transform, right? Basically, the team needs to be below 20% health in order for Yuji to actually transform. So if the team is above 20% health, he literally cannot transform, which might be a problem later down the line. The thing is, once he does transform, he becomes an absolute monster of a damage stick with VDP, quad 7C, 2 rows. He's definitely just geared for damage, right? So he's definitely a bruiser in that regard. I also think that the main thing about him is he has incredibly great multipliers. He has 2.3x HP, 2.3x recovery. The recovery is the kicker here. Like, he provides so much natural recovery that complements Mahito so well. So it's very, very valuable in that sense. I also think that Yuji is great because he also provides a good amount of HP as well. It's really hard because Mahito is 1.8x HP and then 50% shield, and Yuji is 2.3 and 35% shield. The way I kind of eyeball it is obviously 50% shield is, you take half the damage, so your health is effectively doubled, right? If you have a 35% shield, you're only taking 65% of the damage, right? Which means you flip it over, you get 100 over 65, which kind of rounds out around to 20 over 13, which is a little bit of an awkward number, right? The way I like to eyeball it is 35% is close to 33%, right? And 33% is 1/3, right? So if you shield off 1/3 of the damage, you only take 2/3 of the damage, right? If you flip the fraction, take its reciprocal, right? 2/3 becomes 3/2, so effectively you get 1.5x HP, right? Of course, the math is a little bit more precise, right? Like when you actually calculate it, it's not going to be exactly 3, but it gets there, right? It's about in that ballpark, is what I would say. And so Yuji, in his own right, is a great lead as well. He also provides 4 extra combos, right? Which is, again, incredible. The benefit of combo effects, right? The ones that boost your combo count is it makes VVPing such a breeze, right? Like, or matching rows, right? Because they naturally nuke your combo count. So when you supplement it that way, you can proc, all right, you can activate all your awakenings like 7C, 10C and stuff while also matching VDP or matching rows or whatever without, worrying about that. Or, you don't have to worry about, oh, I'm going to hit this combo shield limit. It's like I can't make it over. With 7 extra combos per turn, 3 from Mahito and 4 from Yuji. Yeah, I'll just say with Yuji, but Sukuna also refers to Yuji as well. It's a little bit weird how they did it, but yeah, that's how it works, right? Again, the team has 7 extra combos, which means that basically you just have to match a blob, you get 8 combos. You're gonna go over every combo shield there is most of the time. His one downside is Yuji has a low attack multiplier, right? It's only, and I say only, right? It's only 13.8x attack, which, to be fair, is actually pretty low. But that's where Mahito comes in and supplements the damage, not only through his leader skill, which is 20x, right, but also through his active system, which gives the burst off the VDP and gives a lot of orbs to effectively deal a ton of damage. It works out wonderfully. I think it complements each other very well. I think, in my opinion, just a top 5 leader pair right off the bat for NA. Now, digging into the team, right, there are a couple interesting things that you might be curious about. The first thing is, where is Belial, right? Where's the sub that has seen use on every single team known to mankind since the card's release, right? Here, I opted to go for Wrath, right? Now, the reason why is because I kind of looked through the dungeon info, and I was like, there's honestly not that many Welcome Binds, and there's honestly not that many Unmatchables and stuff like that. And there are no binds either, right? So I was like, well, what should I do? Like, what can I use, right? And after a while, I settled on Wrath because Wrath provides a ton of skill boosts, a good amount of damage, and he has the Awoken Bind Clear active that I'm looking for. That means, though, that I don't have a matchable clear. So how did I take care of that? Well, I was thinking, okay, if I can't take up a matchable clear conventionally, right? Like, oh, a matchable clear. Well, I don't have an active, but I can use the latent, right, with TPAs. And so that also piqued my interest, right? I was like, can I make use of that? And turns out I could. So I actually, took a look at Halloween Madoo. The reason why I thought of her was because she has a lot of VDPs, right? And so I was looking for ways to like supplement my spike damage, right? Like, how can I make my spike bigger, right? And it turns out, well, Halloween Madoo has 3 VDP. And not only that, but Halloween Madoo also has TPAs, which I can take advantage of. So I decided, screw it. I'm just gonna not use Belial, right? I'm not gonna use the God sub, the God Cleric. And instead, I'm going to use Wrath and the TPA Unmatchable Latent. Right now, of course, that Unmatchable Latent, right, that works with TPA is as follows, right? So if you match a TPA, for every awakening that the TPA card with the latent has, it reduces the unmatchable orb status duration by 1 turn, right? So On this team, I had Madoo's Super Awakening set to TPA. So she had 3 TPAs, which means that every TPA match reduced 3 turns off the unmatchable requirement, whatever that was, right? Which is actually fantastic because guess what? If you match 2 TPA, you can clear most things, right? Now, of course, if I had more TPAs, life would have been easier and blah, 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 but TPA sucks as an awakening, so you generally don't want it, right? So just fitting in 3 is, already hard enough, right? It's really interesting to me because I've always disdained TPA as like just a trash awakening, and it turned out to be really clutch here. So with that being said, I used the unmatchable tech there, the latent, to get rid of that. I think it might be the first time I've ever seen it used. Maybe someone is taking advantage of it, I don't know, but I just never see it used because it sucks. Again, Wrath with his skill boost and active and things like that. I also use him as an inherit base, although it's only for the beginning, and that's the haste up the leads, right? And then of course we have the last sub of the team, we have Sakura. Right now Sakura is my unlock / time buffer, right? I don't use her, well of course she's also a damage stick as well. I don't really use her for anything else. But in her own right, she's incredibly strong as well because she is a nice complementary damage stick to Yuji, right? The thing is, this team is based on VDP. So cards like Mahito, he doesn't have any damage if you don't VDP. And while his active gives you plenty of orb generation and does make it easy to VDP, sometimes it just doesn't happen, or sometimes you just get rolls or something and you decide to roll, right? Now, with that being said, if you have to roll but you don't have any other damage sticks besides VDP sticks, you're not going to do any damage, right? And so Yuji, he becomes a beast, right? 4, 7C, whatever. But Sakura is also a beast of a damage stick in her own right, where she has 2 high health awakenings, right? I guess we call them high health now. She has 3 7C, VDP, just plenty of damage overall. Like, she's really, really, really strong as well. And her active is amazing. I considered using Ina because Ina's active is very similar in its value, but Sakura was just a better card. Ina is like very gimpy because Ina doesn't really, she doesn't really provide any value, right? Like Ina is just, how do I put it? Ina is that card that you only put for the active and as an inherent base, right? Because the rows are nice, the machine killer might be nice, and the ADP is nice, but you're really not doing damage, and dungeons, endgame dungeons require a lot of damage. So Sakura, to be honest, I forgot Sakura existed, but then I just like thought about it. I was like, wait, instead of using Ina, I can just use Sakura. And so I decided to use Sakura, right? And she worked out wonderfully, not only because she's a great damage stick and great active and whatever, but she's also a great kind of transitionary card in the beginning. Now, as I talked about, Yuji requires sub 20% HP to actually transform, right? So if you're not below 20% HP, you can't transform. There are a couple ways to achieve this. One is by suiciding your own health, right? Like let's say you use a suicide, right? Then of course you're going to suicide your own health and be able to transform. Another way is to tank the hit in the dungeon, right? So that you're below 20% HP, and then letting the dungeon do that work for you, right? So in this case, that's what I did. That's exactly what I did. I let the dungeon do the work for me, and it worked out wonderfully. The way it worked out is, normally I don't have enough health pre-transform, but I use Sakura's shield and I barely have enough health to live and get my HP down to sub 20% range. And so that's basically how it works. Sakura, not only useful in her post-transform, but also pre-transform as well. And that's the team, right? So I think a couple of downsides and a couple of problems with the team in general. The way I put it is, I would not play this team for farming. I would not play this team for consistency. One problem, it's like very RNG, right? Like, so all the dungeons nowadays look like this. You have a couple early floors with the mass amount of spawns. Later down the line though, you get the later floors, which are just loaded with beefy sets of bosses, right? And one boss is Saraswati, right? And she awoken binds. Cool. You have Wrath, right? You deal with it with Wrath, right? But then there's a boss later down the line named Takamimusubi, right? And she also awoken binds, right? The thing is, there's not that much time between the two, right? So it's actually kind of hard to find the timing or to stall for Wrath to get back up, right? Half the time you just end up dying, I think. It's just too hard, right? I mean, it's one of the problems, right? Which is why, of course, God Cleric Belial is OP because Belial doesn't encounter these kinds of problems because Belial will be back up by the time you get there, right? The next problem you can face is the Fusion Gauntlet, right? Now, of course, this dungeon requires a Fusion, and in particular, a 3-turn Fusion to get through not only the potential boss known as Blue Albert, but also Kana and Australis. Now, technically speaking, you don't need a 3-turn Fusion for the earlier part. You can get away with a delay as well, but I didn't have the luxury to use a delay, so I had to get away with a 3-turn Fusion. And what I found out is that Australis is extremely tanky. It's very difficult sometimes because, again, of course, on average, you have to have 15 Dark Orbs on your board, but sometimes that just doesn't happen, right? And so for me, it's like, barely get to like half the damage, and sometimes you just don't make it. It's really hard to call, you know. Australis is a little too tanky, so it really sucks in that regard. So if you fail to kill, that's basically insta death, right? Of course, the problem is, right, I use Pegasus equip, so you can use the shield to time it on Australis's 3rd move execution thing. But sometimes, again, that doesn't happen because you have to use the active on Kana, which means you lack a shield on Australis. So that's also a very big pain in the butt, right? And then, of course, you have... No, not the boss. You have Kami Musubi, right? Kami Musubi, right, casts an Unmatchable in the beginning, which is already really painful to get rid of because you have to, like, blob and match TPAs, and it's an incredible hassle to deal with, right? Then, not only that, Kami Musubi just does a lot of damage and enrages later. It's like... Kami Musubi is technically killable, but that enrage and the unmatch, it just makes it extremely difficult to deal with, in my opinion. So yeah, Kami Musubi sucks. So we have Kami Musubi, and then last but not least, we have Albert. The thing is, my team is well teched against Blue Albert and well teched against Dark Albert. The only Albert I have a problem with is the actual original Albert, Green Albert, right? He's such a pain because you can't really kill him that quickly, right? And in the middle of his movesets, he has like delay and awoken bind and stuff, and he has an enrage, right? So when he enrages, you actually just can't recover from the damage, right? The thing is, I did tell you that Yuji solves Mahito's recovery problem, but it doesn't like solve it, it just barely covers the issue, right? Like with Nautilus, you slap on Alina and all of a sudden you're pumping health, right? You're regenning so fast, right? With Mahito x Yuji, it's more like I barely recover enough to get through this. It's not I just recover billions of HP. It's very tight. And so Green Albert, when he enrages, and that's as soon as he dips below half, he just starts slamming you really, really hard. And then of course there's that delay in his move loop and things like that. It's just an incredible pain overall. So, well, there's the team, there's its problems. It worked out in the end, but it's not something that's too amazing. I just like it because there's a lot of interesting text going around, right? I think one thing I forgot to mention is that I also do use the spinner Leighton. I use it on the sub Mahito in order to get rid of the spinners, because there are a lot of spinners in the dungeon, and it gets really hard to deal with them just through player skill, because I don't know if I mentioned it, but there's only 8 seconds of move time, and that's with the pad pass badge. So there's only 5 seconds of move time, which means there's absolutely zero time extended awakening on this team at all. So the team is like, it's strong, but it has a lot of problems, and they're hard to deal with without the benefit of RNG, and you just gotta get lucky for this team to work out. So anyway, that's my fairy title challenge run. That's the team. I hope you guys enjoyed. I had a blast playing this. Like, it sucks, of course, but I just find it very interesting. Like, I use some interesting things. It was really cool seeing them work out in practice and stuff. And I do think, testing out the team viability and the strength of the leaders was also really cool as well. I do affirm that Mahito x Yuji is undoubtedly, I think it's undoubtedly top 5 in NA, right? Well, what do you even have in contention? You have like Nautilus, you got Roslyn, you got Natsuru, you got Oak, you got Rainbow, Mario, Sakura, right? You got Phyllis, right? I don't know. I think Mahito and Yuji, like, a very accessible sub pool. really strong. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's top 5, but we'll see. Anyway, guys, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And yeah, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, comment below. And I'll see if I can get to it. I haven't been really responding, but I'll try. As always, thanks for watching. I will see you guys next time. Good luck and have fun.